Hello, my name is Spectre, and welcome to my channel. Or welcome back if you're a repeat customer. So recently, over this past weekend, I went to Anthrocon 2022 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In fact, I am recording this about an hour after I have finally gotten back home and settled down. I wanted to give my thoughts on the whole event fresh while I currently know them and they are in my mind. So this was the first Anthrocon in 3 years in person. However, it is also the first Anthrocon that I have ever been to. At first, I was unsure if I would even be able to go to Anthrocon this year. It is a con that I've been wanting to go to for a while now, and I managed to scrape as much as I possibly could together in order to go, and I essentially went on a dime. I also really wanted to take this trip to this con to not just relax, not just meet friends, but also to maybe find some answers for myself. Find some kind of solutions to a lot of questions that I've been having. A furry spiritual journey, if you will. And really, looking back on the whole event, I'm not entirely sure if all of these questions were answered, at least not in full. And I feel like there may have been some more questions pop up than answers being given to those questions, but that doesn't mean I didn't have a good time. And honestly, I'm very, very glad I went. So I took the 7.5 hour drive from my home to Pittsburgh. Navigating Pittsburgh, however, was very difficult and is not exactly a very fun time if you're not entirely familiar with the city, considering how it's built. But I arrived at around 9:30 to 10 and decided to go over to the main Westin Hotel to see if there was anybody there, and to my surprise, there was. There was a few furries walking around, not very many that I recognized. I bumped into Strobes, talked to him for a few minutes. Ended up running into JT as well, so that was a pretty nice surprise. I also got to finally see Ollie's suit, which, if you are not familiar with Ollie, his artist name is Brayburned. While he definitely had a lot of successful comics and art in the past, his more successful one recently has been a comic called 609. I also saw Tyler Furlong, which was a very pleasant surprise, considering the fact that he lives all the way in Alaska. Not expecting to see him there, but it was very nice to actually get to meet someone that I usually rate a lot on Twitch. By the way, shameless plug here, I stream on Twitch pretty frequently, so if you all would like to join me on my Twitch adventures, then there's a link down in the description. But anyway, Tyler is someone who I raid frequently on Twitch when I am done streaming. So it was very, very nice to actually get to meet him for the first time. I also met up with Eldon, one of my other friends who lives in Ohio. We decided to room together during the week, but unfortunately we did not have a room until the next day, so we decided to bunk at a friend's house about 30 minutes away from the con. And I definitely can't say that I had the best sleep of my life, considering me and Eldon were sleeping on a very thin couch together. But hey, sometimes con life isn't always easy. You have to make some sacrifices here and there, and sometimes those sacrifices can be a little uncomfortable. As for Thursday, pretty much of the same has happened. Nothing, and that was about it. Roamed around, talked to a bunch of other furries, met a few others as well, but other than that, not much happened, except for registration, which is what took up a very large majority of the day. Got in line around 3:30, and didn't get out until about 7 o'clock at night. Yes, that is how long the registration line was at Anthrocon. I wish they would have just kind of sent people's badges out to them who pre-registered online. But hey, I'm not con staff. I can't make decisions for them, so I guess we just had to suffer that day. Afterwards, we finally got all of our stuff into the hotel room that we were staying at. We We're staying at the AC Hotel, which is actually pretty close to the con center. So it was nice to be able to just go out of the hotel, walk to the con center, and even it was pretty close to the waterfront, which I will get to momentarily. So it was pretty easy access to everything that was in town. But since nothing was particularly happening that night, we decided to go ahead and retire for the night and wait for the next morning to go to the con. Friday was honestly not a very great day, at least on a personal level. I never exactly inspected anything out of the con. I, inspected a lot actually from what people told me, but since I haven't exactly experienced any of it myself, I honestly didn't know where to go or what to do. I mostly roamed around the convention center and the dealer's den for quite a while. Eldon was my fursuit handler for the most part during all this. However, he decided to go hang out with some other friends, and that was all fine, but I ended up being by myself for quite a few hours, and I didn't exactly have much to do. I didn't know where to go, and I didn't exactly have any plans either, so I was just kind of moping around the con for a few hours. And being in a position where I more or less just recently jumped more into the fandom, being a furry for a long time, I didn't exactly know a whole lot of people. I didn't know who to talk to, didn't exactly know who to ask, where to go and do anything, so it was mostly just walking around aimlessly trying to find some sort of direction. And that worked a lot on the conscious mind. And I have quite a few anxiety problems. I have a lot of issues with things like self-worth and just not thinking that I'm good enough for really anything. Nobody particularly wants to be around me. Nobody actually recognizes me for anything. So it was a rough few hours. I did run into a couple other furries, though. I ran into Odin, or, Nito, as he was currently in that suit. I also bumped into Samson the kitty fox, who, throughout that night, actually helped me out a lot. He was going to a party himself, and unfortunately, it was invite only, and you had to know the person who was hosting it to even be invited in the first place. But he did promise me that he would hang out with me after he got done with the party. And he did keep to that promise. Me, him, and another fur went out to this pizza place. It's a pizza place that also, of course, serves subs and wraps and things of that nature. But it's actually completely changes its look and its menu specifically for Anthrocon. But after that, we went down to the waterfront and just kind of hung out there for quite a while. In fact, when I looked at the clock, wanting to go back to the hotel room, it was about 4:30 in the morning, and we just sat there and talked. Talked about life, talked about the fandom, talked about YouTube. And Samson said it to me before, and he said it to me again right there on the waterfront pathway, that he enjoys my content, that he does look up to me as a good content creator, and that means a lot. That really does mean a lot. Not just from him, but for anyone who comes up to me and goes, "Hey, I watch your YouTube channel." It lets me know I'm doing something right. So definitely thank you, Samson, for all those kind words that you said. And thank you just honestly for being a friend in general. And then came Saturday. And Saturday at Anthrocon was probably one of the most exciting and euphoric moments that I have ever had as a furry. Woke up, took a shower, got dressed, put my suit on, and decided to go to a small water dog meet, who, by the way, that is my fursuit maker, CashApp, and some of these suitors that were there decided to get together and take some pictures. There was one particular suitor that unfortunately did not get to make it at that point, but they still were at the con, but I'll take and get to that later. And after our little photo shoot that we had on the roof of the convention center, We went down a couple floors and got ready to have our picture taken at this giant room that they usher everyone into right before the fursuit parade. They got everyone in there. It took them about 20 minutes for them to fully get everything ready to take the picture, while Uncle Kage was yelling at everybody to basically stand here, do this, to make sure that everyone got into the picture. Afterwards, they started ushering everybody out in a single line to get ready for the fursuit parade. In fact, the line was pretty much going exactly to the fursuit parade as we were walking through the con center and down and around the street. And the fursuit parade was something else. It wasn't a very long walk. It was just going out of the con center on one side, going around the front of the con center, and then going back in on the other side. But even that short walk was honestly one of the most exciting moments I've ever had as a furry. Hundreds of people coming out just to see everybody. And these are people who are not furries. And maybe some of them are furries. There were a couple furries in the crowd that didn't exactly have a suit, so they decided to sit there. But the fact is that there were people just from Pittsburgh coming down to see everybody at the parade. There were tons of kids and adults alike that were holding their hands out, waiting to get a high five from all the suitors. Star Raccoon, who I was also walking around with, gave me a bandana to hand to a child of my choosing, and I saw a little girl that honestly could have used a bandana. So I walked up to her, I gave it to her, I gave her a hug, and I feel like that made somebody's day, and I'm definitely glad it did. I'm glad I could make somebody's day with that. Just seeing everybody's smiling faces, not just the suitors themselves, but also the people watching us, it was magic. It was this very strange, magical moment that you don't really see or even experience in any other fandom. And I can't exactly explain the feeling, but it's pure bliss. Pure euphoric bliss, knowing that people are just there to see you, to experience the fandom, even though they are not a furry themselves. And they're happy about that. And at the end of the parade, we were put into a giant room where we could de-head, grab some water, converse with others if we wanted to, and there was a door exit to the other on the other side. And there was a door on the other side of the room where we could exit and go to wherever we wanted to next. But the place most of everyone went to was the Anthrocon block party. The entire street area in front of the con center was completely closed down for the day, while the furries and everyone else could go out there and talk and just be with the crowd. We had a lot of locals coming up to us and taking pictures. There was a lot of other furries that we saw just walking around that I also got some pictures with. This is also where I managed to run into Tuners. And for those who didn't realize, me and Tuners are actually suit siblings. His suit, or at least his head, is made by SpectordaWolf. And of course I took my picture with him, and I asked him if he wanted to do a TikTok the next day when he had some time. But just that whole day was one giant party. However, after we got done with the block party, didn't exactly have anywhere else to go, so me and Eldon decided to meet back up at our hotel room and just go wherever we wanted to. Go find a party to attend. and we ended up running into one of his friends, another kitty fox named Eric, who is at the time actually going to a party himself and invited us to tag along with him. So we done that, and we all ended up going to this person's room. We all kind of talked and mingled there for a while before going down to the waterfront. I also got to talking to Eric quite a bit, found out that we had a lot in common. So I definitely know I made a new friend that night. We did not stay in this person's room very long, however. We all decided to pack up some of our things and go down to the waterfront for the night. We found a spot where we could put all of our drinks, and we just hung out around that area for quite a while. In fact, by the time that I decided to check my phone to see if it was time for bed or not, it was almost 5 o'clock in the morning. I was having such a good time that, honestly, I didn't even think I needed to check my phone for anything. I just wanted to spend the night there. I just wanted to continue to hang out with everyone. I wanted to continue to make as many new friends as I possibly could. And I definitely did meet quite a few new people and make quite a few new friends there. But after retiring for Saturday, Sunday wasn't too major. Nothing was really going on that I particularly cared about, except for a few things that I unfortunately did miss because I slept in. Staying up till 5 o'clock in the morning will definitely do that to you. But I was messaged in the afternoon by Tuners asking me if I wanted to do that TikTok, and he also asked me if I wanted to come over and play with balloons. I definitely couldn't say no to that, and I definitely have never played with balloons before, so I decided to go over and see what it was all about. I didn't realize that playing with balloons would have been that much fun, but it definitely was that much fun. We also, of course, did the TikTok, and afterwards, Tuners said he wanted to go out shooting, and if anyone else wanted to join him, they could. So me and Tuners went out and suited. We also ran into the rest of our suit family, and we decided to take a group photo there. However, as the day was starting to wind down and the closing ceremony was over with, there was a small issue that ended up rising, and for some reason the police decided to come down and force everybody out of the con center as quickly as they possibly could. And while I definitely was in the middle of this, a lot of people have said that they were telling everybody to get out while also having ARs in their hands. They were going into rooms with loud bullhorns and just yelling at everyone to get out. Me and Tuners kind of vacated the entire scene before we could actually verify any of that firsthand, so I basically have to go off of everyone else's accounts on what happened. So that was definitely not the best way to end the con in general, but I'm glad everyone is still safe. And much like Saturday night, Sunday night was once again a massive party at the waterfront. And while there was a dead dog dance at the Weston's ballroom, the real dead dog dance was at the waterfront. Somebody brought down a portable DJ station with a bunch of speakers and lights, and everyone just had a massive rave pit right there where the water fountain was. And once again, I stayed up for way longer than I probably should have. In fact, I stayed up till about 5 o'clock in the morning, sat around, watched the sunrise, went back and crawled into bed with Eldon, and slept for a few hours before it was time to go pack up, turn in our key cards, and go home. And of course, it rolls around the time we leave. Me and Eldon went to go get a bite to eat and some coffee at the nearby coffee shop at the hotel, and we parted ways there. I took the 7.5 hour drive all the way home, and here I am. And there's a lot of things that I didn't get to do at this con for sure. There's a lot of furs that I didn't get to meet. I didn't get to see Duke Doberman. I didn't get to see Nos Hyena. And unfortunately, I didn't get to hang out with most of the furs that I really wanted to. And even though I did see him, I unfortunately did not get a picture with Felix Fox. I only met the guy out of suit, so I didn't particularly want to get a picture of him without his suit and post it anywhere, but maybe I'll be able to get him later. And actually, shockingly, I ended up running into a furry artist that I didn't think I was going to see there. His name is Pulsar. I don't know if a lot of people are entirely familiar with his works. His works are definitely more of an acquired taste. So I have to say that this was a con of many surprises and a few disappointments here and there, but mostly quite a few surprises. So, in conclusion, Anthrocon was, well, let me put it this way. To a furry, when you get your first fursuit, it is a very life-changing experience. When you go to your first con, it is most definitely a life-changing experience. But it is also, when you go to your first Anthrocon, it is quite the life-changing experience. This is a con that I inspected nothing of, yet somehow still inspected quite a bit from it, and ended up getting a few things that I inspected and a few things that I did not. I'm still not entirely sure about the questions I've wanted answered by going to this con. I'm still kind of processing the whole thing, to be honest with you, but I enjoyed every single minute of it. And I saw an article while I was scrolling through my news feed during the con that somebody quoted a furry saying that it feels like home. I definitely agree with that. It felt like home. And this is definitely a con that I will be going back to, hopefully, from here on out. So thank you so much to the con organizers, con staff, for making this an amazing first con for me and an amazing first con back in 3 years for everyone else. Thank you to all my friends who were there to help support me, and thank you to all the new friends that I made, and thank you to everyone else who I may have not interacted with or gotten pictures with, because you still made that con what it is. You are still as much a part of it as those who I do interact with. Thank you all for making this con a special one. Thank you for making this con feel more like a family reunion. Thank you for making this con honestly feel like home. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Spectre out.